Another week here of the show. Glad you're with us. Larry Smith, Brad Sturdy, Mike Cagley. We're the Illini guys from IlliniGuys.com. And we've got another fantastic hour for you coming up here. Kedrick Prince, we joke about Kedrick and the 10-gallon hat right in from the West with the recruiting roundup. Haven't seen Kedrick in a while. We've been so focused on football. Kedrick's been patiently waiting while his horse is eating oats outside of town. But he's now coming in a few minutes, and we'll get all the recruiting roundup right now, talking with him. And Big Ten Media Days last week, we mentioned on the show we're going to hold off on some of the content from that until this week, since we had the big Ohio State game last week, of course. And we've got that. We'll have that next couple of weeks. This week, Sturdy catching up with Kylan Boswell. We'll talk a lot about the senior from Champaign here in a few minutes. But fellas, football is off 5-2 right now. A loss to Ohio State, but one that really disappointing. It's a loss, but I was proud of the way these guys played, because here's the thing. Illinois beat themselves, in my opinion. It wasn't so much Ohio State beat them. Illinois, if you eliminate the mistakes, they're right in this game, and they might have even pulled off the upset.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this, Illinois is not as talented as Ohio State. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But at the same time, Ohio State was a little bit flat, and Illinois was like fired up, but I think that led to maybe trying to do too much at times. And we had, basically had 3 turnovers and then a punter taking a knee that are basically 4 turnovers. If you do that against Ohio State, you're going to lose. Now, if they don't have those turnovers, it's conceivable that they hang around in this game and make it interesting in the fourth quarter. And that's how upsets happen. They needed to actually win the turnover battle. Instead, they lose it by 4. But, it's also positive to say something about the offense. Ohio State had not given up double-digit points this year. Illinois scored 16. It doesn't seem like a lot, but and they moved the ball a little bit. I mean, they had some yards. So this was a really good performance at times, and there were things to learn and grow with from this performance, because they don't see another team like Ohio State the rest of the season.
It would have been nice to see Illinois keep it a little closer, be a little more careful with the ball, and force Ohio State to have to play under pressure and under duress on the road. Illinois was not able to do that because some of the turnovers early. And who knows, part of the reason why you had such a low number of yards for Ohio State was they got the ball 4 times inside Illinois territory. There's some things that you can look at and say, well, it could have been worse. But again, I would have really enjoyed seeing how Ohio State responded to a high-pressure situation. Unfortunately, Illinois wasn't able to force that.
Yeah, if you don't have those turnovers, like you said, it may be a different game right now. So they're 5-2. They're at Washington next week. Washington just 1 loss in the season. They take on Michigan here this weekend. We'll all be watching that game, including all the Illini team, as Coach Bielema said on his press conference on Wednesday, that the team will get Saturday off, and then they'll begin prepping for the Huskies on Sunday. But here's the thing. Illinois has a shot if you run the table, and it's possible because, while Washington is a very good team, their defensive coordinator is Ryan Walters, the former Illinois defensive coordinator. We know what he can do. He knows Bielema's system, et cetera. But they have a shot right now to run the table and go 10-2 and have back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time ever. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the possibility is there. And again, we've talked about culture, building a winning culture, building a team that can not just be a one-hit wonder, but have sustained success. All that is ready right now here for this Illinois team, even though they've lost right now. The only losses are to the number 1 and number 3 ranked teams in the country.
Yeah, it's really, they're not, you look at if those are the only teams you lose to, well, you're in good shape because you're not playing those guys again until the playoff. So I think that this is the thing about Illinois is every year it seems like we talk about Illinois football. There's been even in Bielema a couple years ago when they had a chance to maybe win the Big Ten West, and they lost at home to Michigan State or lost at home to Purdue or whatever. Those couple of games where it was like, okay, they had a chance to do something. Those seasons, that was a good season still. They got 8 wins, whatever. But at the end of the day, it seems like it's been a lot of disappointment. They have to take care of business in these games. They'll maybe not Washington. We'll see what that line looks like. It's going to be probably pretty pick 'em. The other games they're going to be favored in. But if they can win the Washington game, they are they're in a great spot to actually make a run to get into the college football playoff. They really are if they can beat Washington. If not, well, there's still 9 wins out there. I mean, still a 9-win season out there, which would be fantastic. So a lot of things still on the docket for Illinois where they have an opportunity to make some hay.
This Washington game is going to be a challenge. Washington has a great offense. We will see how Illinois does. But as Brad said, you've got an opportunity to go 10-2, be the first time Illinois has ever done that in back-to-back seasons. It would certainly be nice to get a 10-win season in the regular season so you don't have to worry about the bowl outcome. And the crazy thing about this Illinois team is they are good enough that they can beat every team left on their schedule, but they're not so good that they don't have to worry about every team on the schedule. So they've got a little bit of they've got to stay focused, and they've got to go, as Brett Bielema talks about, 1-0 every weekend. But they've got a really good chance if they can just focus on the task at hand of having a record-setting year for the Illini.
Yeah, I'm greedy. I want all the wins plus a bowl win, 21 wins over 2 seasons. Never been done before. That's what I want, but I'm greedy. Hey, okay, so basketball starts Saturday. It is a men's basketball exhibition game against Illinois State. But fellas, let's first start about the rankings right now. Illinois, in the first Associated Press poll, the media voting them 17th in the country. You guys know how I feel about preseason polls. The big thing is it's the media showing you respect. And I think that's where this is right now, that with a lot of, not a lot of guys coming back, some, with a lot of moving parts, a lot of new guys coming in, a very tough schedule, the media feels that this team is one of the top 20 teams in the country, top 20 programs in the country.
Yeah, I think that's positive. That's kind of a reputation thing with Brad Underwood, and also, some talent that they have. The other thing I notice is that how high the computer models have Illinois, whether it's T-Rank has them at 7, KenPom has them at 6. That's impressive. So everybody's got Illinois at a higher rank. I'm not sure that even the fan base has them that high, right? I mean, they're fans, so they're going to be a little bit over the top. But so it's very impressive because you see the reputation, but you also see the analytics saying, hey, this team's going to be really good on offense, and they've got some length to be better defensively too.
This team really is an interesting one to take a look at because I think they've got a lot of guys who are fundamentally strong players. And I think if these guys don't try to do too much and lean on their teammates, make the extra pass, hit the open shot when they get it. If they follow through with just good team basketball, I think this is going to be a better team that might actually be better than the sum of its parts because of the fundamentals that these guys come into play with.
Yeah, well, they're more mature. There's no question. Kylan Boswell, we'll talk about him in a moment. Tomislav Ivicic, Jake Davis coming in. Coach Underwood talking high praise about his shooting ability during media days last week. Exhibition game on Sunday at State Farm Center. What are you guys looking for in this contest against the Redbirds?
Well, Illinois State's good. I mean, they're predicted to win the Valley. So this is a team that's a quality opponent. And so I want to see Illinois. First of all, you got to see who's actually going to play in this game. Like, I mean, we don't expect Stojakovic to play or Petrovic because he's not cleared. They're going to be limited a little bit in their bodies. But, I want to see who plays, want to see how they fit together, see how Keaton Wagler plays within this, in his first, time on the big stage, I guess. He's been great in practice, great in all the close scrimmages, all these things. So we'll see what happens with that. But I want to see how they mesh together and how they're able to use the two big guys together. Can this team defend using all that length? So, yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from this. But I think for this game against a quality opponent like this, it's all about them just getting more comfortable. And they learn a lot about themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the power forward position is the one that we probably know the least about what's going to happen. You've got Merkovich, you got Rickhouse, who's returning, and I think you can really look at that experience that he's gained in a year of competing and then getting a chance to work in the offseason. He might be a better guy than what we thought. And, of course, you've got Zoronomir as well, who can play there with Twin Towers. So I'm really interested in finding out how Brad Underwood deploys that power forward position.
Yeah, one player we know is going to see some time is Kylan Boswell, the senior from Champaign, who really, I mentioned last year, I kept saying, who's your alpha? Who's your alpha? That was my concern. Kylan Boswell is now the alpha, and Coach Underwood talking about just what he brings, the attributes he brings to this team. during Media Day last week in Rosemont. Let's listen in. So Brad Underwood talking about Kylan Boswell. Guys, and it's, Brad, you've even mentioned too, and we're going to hear from him in a moment when you talk to him. Just there's just a confidence and a maturity just in the way he approaches everything right now.
Yeah, he's a different. He was always good with the media. I interviewed him last year for Big Ten Media Days. I did a one-on-one with him then too. But this time he's different. Like this is a guy who's, again, second year in the program. He's more comfortable in his own skin. He's more comfortable with the situation, with the system, everything. When you're new, you come in, it's hard to just take that leadership role, right? I mean, even if you're the older guy, whatever, it's hard to be the leader that way. When you're now, he's a veteran, and he's a veteran of the Illinois program. He knows what Brad Underwood wants. He knows what he wants to do. He understands. What I thought was interesting is how he talks about how vocal he is talking with Coach Crocker on the defensive end and how they're able to communicate. And I thought that was really eye-opening when you think about that. And so I think that's really kind of shows how introspective he is, how much of a student of the game is, how much pride he takes in that defensive end. When your leader is guarding like he does, it sets the tone on that end of the floor.
If he gets ownership of the team, I think that's a huge thing from a leadership standpoint. And Illinois needs a guy to say, I'm going to hold players accountable. I'm going to be the guy who forces things to happen on the court, because you just can't have the coach having to do that all the time from the sideline. So I think Boswell's evolution into this role will be really important to the team this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be key to see just how he, and he's got their voice since going back to the Duke loss. He came off the plane from New York and said it's different. This isn't going to happen again, and so we'll see how that translates now that it's his team. Some other guys that are going to play just a huge role, and it was funny to hear Coach Underwood talk about this. All the Balkans. There are 5 players on this team from the Balkan Peninsula. Great story, by the way, on IlliniGuys.com about Andrei Stojakovic. And he says, my game is more Balkan than American. He's the transfer coming in from Cal. Of course, his mom and dad are from the Balkan Peninsula as well. It's, born in Greece, and it's just great to see these guys, what they're bringing in, the different cultures. Coach Underwood talking about how they've always had international players, and it really starts with just the culture of the university.
Yeah, no question. You think about this. Think about the how Illinois having all these international students is like, sometimes that diversity is so huge and important for these guys coming over. They feel like they can fit in. And so that's Brad Underwood makes that sell. NIL doesn't hurt, but having an international university is huge for Illinois.
Yeah, and having a place that people can trust. They know that, let's face it, they know the check's going to clear. They know that Illinois can get them into school. They know that they're at a team that will be on national television at a nice, convenient time for NBA folks to watch all season long. This is what these young men need, and they get an opportunity to get a coach who develops people and a strength and conditioning coach that can help them learn for a lifetime. So there's a lot of reasons why Illinois is a really good fit for these international players.
Yeah, we'll get a look at them starting on Sunday. It's a 2:00 tip-off at State Farm Center versus Illinois. As Sturdy mentioned, the Redbirds coming over from Bloomington, making the short trip. But this is a team expected to make some noise in the Missouri Valley, very competitive team. And you love to see this. Remember last year, the exhibition game was down at Ole Miss, a team that missed the NCAA tournament, but they were an older veteran team, had won 20 games under Chris Beard, who's an excellent coach. Illinois got their hats handed to them in that game, but it was a great a great tool to learn from, a game to grow from, and they did that for the season. By the way, regular season begins on Monday, November 3rd against Jackson State. Illinois with 9 games versus the preseason AP Top 25. The first of those coming up is on November 11th at home against Texas Tech. So it is a very challenging schedule as well for this Illini team. All right, keep it here. We've got Sturdy's conversation with Kylan Boswell next here on the Illini Guys Radio Network.